Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have so much to talk to you all about today, but before we do that, Greg, what do you have to drink today?
I know we have this show, and we say that there's the word coffee in it, but we stopped drinking coffee. We're today I am drinking not coffee but Hint watermelon flavor. This is my new favorite drink. So I know. So what are you drinking, Sophia?
I do have my coffee today. It is from Trader Joe's. It is a French vanilla coffee, and then I put milk and cinnamon in it, and it's delicious. It's my favorite coffee. But
that's fancy.
Yes. So with that,
I just have water with a slight hint of a flavor.
Hint. Well, there you go. So if you're tuning in, get your coffee, get your water, whatever it is, because we got a lot to chat about today.
Yes, we do.
We, just like almost always, we're going to be talking about fighting back against the attack on parents' rights. That has been happening a ton here lately. We actually had a state senator call parents nasty. So we are going to dive into that. We are watching the California legislature. They are pushing to expedite license for medical applicants if they're willing to cut off the healthy body parts of children and sterilize them and mutilate their bodies. And so much more going on. So let's dive right in. Greg, AB 1955, that has been the talk of the town lately. What is going on with that?
Well, if you've been following us at all for the last year, you know that we have been promoting, first here at the Capitol, the whole idea that parents should be always involved in the lives of their children, especially if they're struggling with gender dysphoria. And, you know, it seems to be an epidemic now. The more that schools tell kids that they can be any gender they want, they tell kids that their feelings determine their authentic selves, and that means their gender. And it's not just, you know, male and female. You can be an unnumbered. I mean, they don't have a specific number of genders that are out there, but they keep expanding, and so more and more kids, not surprisingly, are deciding that they aren't the male, or they're not a female that they thought they were. And so, and the school district has policies where they have to keep that secret. Parents can't know. It's a child's decision when their parents know that they are identifying as a different sex, changing their pronouns, their names, for everybody at school to know about. And the school is supposed to keep that secret from the parents. So we fought back. We helped introduce a bill, which didn't get a hearing, a bill of Saley. And so we went from there. We put together a coalition of other parent rights groups, and we started encouraging school districts to introduce what we call a parent notification policy, which simply says, hey, if a kid is telling the school they want to have a different pronoun, a different name, they want to start going to opposite sex bathrooms and opposite sex teams, then the parent just has to be notified. That's it. A little notification. If everybody else knows, why are we keeping it from the parent? That caused so much controversy. But we had about 10 different school districts in the state who said, okay, we'll do it. Even though the state has been going around, state officials saying this is illegal. But, you know, as you know, they've been saying it's illegal for the last year. We got Bonta, our attorney general. We got Tony Thurmond as a superintendent, all saying this is terrible. This is illegal. How can you do this? Except there is no law on the books. And they started losing in court. State courts, federal courts are starting to recognize that parents have rights to know what their kids are up to at school. And so a couple of weeks ago, the legislature finally introduced a bill that I guess is necessary, even though they said it was already legal. They need a bill to mandate that these notification policies are not allowed, against the law. So that's what this is. 1955 says that school officials, teachers are not allowed to let the parents know anything about a kid's gender identity, sexual orientation at school. And our notification bill had nothing to do with sexual orientation. It was simply if a kid had decided to come out and say they're a different gender, that's what our policy was about. So, this particular bill also protects teachers. These teachers who are on a crusades to secretly transition your kids. Any kid who's uncomfortable with their bodies, doesn't fit in somewhere into the normal, whatever stereotypical male or female likes and dislikes. Any kid who thinks they might be something different, well, teachers can encourage them to identify as something else. And when the kid says, okay, I'll do it, well, then a teacher can now not be punished or disciplined by the school or anyone else if they do this behind the parents' back. And so the bill had its first hearing. Senator Scott Wiener from the lovely city of San Francisco actually spoke about this, because the sponsors of the bill are the LGBTQ caucus. It's like, I think there are 10 legislators here up at the Capitol who formed this caucus, identifying as, a gay or lesbian. I don't think we have anything else besides that. One guy identifies as binary. Is that what they call it? Not binary. Bisexual. Sorry. So they had a big press conference. They've been talking about it now that they're introducing Pride Month. That was started this week, right? It's so the terrible, awful thing. They're saying that we are targeting and we are hateful towards these kids, these LGBTQ kids, which is such a big lie. Mm-hmm. What we're targeting is the adults who are keeping secrets from parents. That's what we're targeting. That is what the bad thing is. We care about these kids who are struggling, and they need their parents, right? So it's been a big deal, and so we're going to show you some videos, because Senator Wiener kind of revealed his attitude towards parents and his attitude towards what they have. His idea is that the kids of the state are his kids. They're the state's kids, and right. So Sonia, what do you have to say?
I was just going to say, you were mentioning the press conference and how they announced this bill, and they've been very strategic about sticking to the language of what they're supposed to say and coming across that they're just trying to protect children and all these things. So
right, they call it the Safety Act of all the crazy names.
Exactly. And so they've stayed strict to their language to make it seem like they're on the good side. We can look at the bill and we immediately know that they're trying to get rid of parents' rights. They believe ultimately that children aren't the authority of their parents, but are the authority of the government. And we can see through all of that. But they don't come out and say that because they know they need to be careful with what they say. Yet, as you mentioned, Scott Wiener, he, again, senator in San Francisco, he was following kind of the guidelines, too, of what was needed to be said while he was at the Capitol. And then when he was in his own city in Sacramento it was like
San Francisco, you mean?
Yeah, San Francisco. When he was in his own district, away from the Capitol, celebrating with the mayor of San Francisco, raising the pride flag at their town hall, their city hall there. He kind of really spoke the truth about what he actually thinks about parents and what this bill is going to do. Probably thinking that no one's going to see it because he's in his own little area. And so let's go ahead and just watch this clip because he makes it clear that kids are the government's and not their parents.
We are always there for these kids. These are our kids, and we need to make sure that we are lifting them up and giving them a path to success. So we are working very hard to make that happen. And because we now, and this shows that representation matters, 10% of the California legislature is now LGBTQ, 12 out of 120. And it's actually mostly not San Francisco, LA. We have queer legislators from all over the state, from the Central Valley, from the Inland Empire, from San Diego. It's an amazing and beautiful tapestry of our community and tapestry of California. And even though we know that so much of the hate directed at our community is happening in other states, unfortunately it's here in California too. And we know that we have school boards in particular in some very conservative areas that are demonizing and attacking our LGBTQ youth in ways that are so dangerous. And so about a week ago, our caucus, the 12 of us, we said not on our watch, and we introduced legislation to ban these forced outing policies that some school boards are starting to adopt. Because we know that for all of us, a lot of experience in this room in terms of coming out, in terms of when, if, how someone comes out to their parents, that is our decision and no one else's damn business. And we're going to make that clear in the law of the state of California. But as we fight all the nasty people out there who are trying to harm us, and we're going to beat them and we're going to win, let's celebrate. Let's have just a festive and uplifting month. I am so excited about it. Happy Pride, everyone.
So parents, it's not your damn business.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your business when a young kid comes out to you, right? If he's coming out to the entire school and the teachers are lying to you and using their original authentic name to you, but changing it when they're talking to the kid at school, that's okay, right? The secrecy policy is okay. It's not your business, right? So wow.
That's like the perfect ad for homeschool groups to start using. Like, just play that video. This is why you should homeschool your child. It's beyond belief. This is truly how these people in government believe. Not all of them, but here we have a supermajority, and those supermajority genuinely believe what he had to say. I think it's also important to note that he is 50 years old, or maybe a couple years older. He's in his 50s, is gay, identifies as gay, and has no children. But your kids are his kids, are the government's kids. So it's also heartbreaking too. I mean, we have the stats and all that to show that actually when what we were fighting for, the parent notification policy again, was just for a parent to be notified, not if the child came out as gay or lesbian or things like that, but if the child was asking to be acknowledged as a different gender, name, wanting to use a different bathroom, play on the opposite sex sports teams at school. Parents need to be informed. And one of the main reasons parents need to be informed is, one, that's their child. They have those parental rights. But two, we have the facts that show that when a child starts to go through that transitioning process, the risk of suicide actually increases. Parents need to know if that's going on in their children's lives. And so everything we're doing it to protect children, to protect families out of a loving way. And they're just turning the words and trying to turn the narrative. But I think Senator Scott Wiener really exposed himself and this bill and his party in that video that, again, he probably thought no one would see. And now I think over 1 million people have seen it on Twitter from 2 different videos, and it's being exposed.
Right, and that's something that, Sophia did. Actually, somebody sent me that video, and then I go, oh, that people need to see that. So I sent it off to Sophia, and she got a copy of it. She posted it on our social media, and it has exploded since then. So that's part of what we do here at California Family Council is when legislators, say the truth, you need to know about it. And so another thing that happened was great. The bill already had its first hearing, right? It was last week. And was it last week or was it this week?
Last week.
Was it last week? And it was actually a pretty good hearing. It was in the Senate Education Committee, And generally, these committees go, you get two people that can say 2 minutes of opposition, and then you get the bill author who gets to talk forever. He gets two witnesses, but he can talk about his bill. And so it's usually stacked against the opposition. But this time, there was a lot of robust conversation happening. There was a doctor, a pediatrician on our side, speaking about what he's witnessed in his practice regarding young girls coming to him with anxiety. And the first thing, they're told is that, gender, you might be a different sex, right? And then we had Erin Friday with Our Duty, an attorney who is also at this committee hearing. She did a great job answering questions, all the legal questions. And then we had a parent who is actually suing her school district in Chico because of the secret transitioning of her daughter. And that is actually was appealed to. She lost her first case, and now it's being appealed to the Ninth Circuit. And so they were all there to testify. And so we're going to show you a clips of that testimony. It was actually a 2-hour hearing. Fascinating to watch. You can go to our YouTube channel and watch it. And all of it, we were able to bring up all of our points, why this is concerning, especially that Europe is now abandoning all the what they call gender affirmative care, right? Which is really just sterilizing kids with puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones and mutilating their healthy body parts. And it's not helping. And the other countries in Western Europe are recognizing this and pulling back, and California is plowing ahead. So we got to actually talk about that. So Sophia, I know your name. Why don't you show that video? I think people will be fascinated by it.
Yeah, here's the video, and the one responding is Erin Friday. Many of you are probably familiar with her, but just before you watch, I do want to make clear she is an attorney here in the state of California, so she's able to speak from that legal aspect. So let's check it out.
So what everyone seems to be missing is currently almost at every school district there's a policy called AR 5145.3, and this policy requires that schools keep a transgender student's transgender identity secret unless the student says that it's okay to reveal it. So it is the child that is making the decision. The child who could be 4, 5, 6, the child who could be suicidal, the child who could have other mental health issues. The child is the one dictating whether this is revealed. However, everyone at the school knows, except for the parents who are the only ones who are able to keep them safe. And Aurora's daughter was told by the school to lie to her about her transgender status, to lie to her own mother. That's what happens at the schools.
Just to address, Senator, your question about the Attorney General's statement in the Mirabelli case. So the Attorney General did say that the guidance issued by the California Department of Education is not binding, but that's true of all agency guidance. What the Attorney General did say is that the law that underlies the guidance, California's anti-discrimination law, California Constitution, that is what is enforceable. The Attorney General has issued a clarification to say that specifically, and so it's not true that the Attorney General has said that the CDE guidance is not enforceable.
Briefly, Ms. Friday.
They have said it 4 times. I have the court documents that the guidance is guidance, and it's not mandated by law. We need to talk about actually what the Constitution permits. Is there a privacy right between a child and a parent? Do children have a privacy right against their parents? They do not. And that's what the federal court said in the Mirabelli case, is that as between parents and children, there is no privacy right. So that is the Constitution of the United States. Also, the 14th Amendment provides that parents are get to care and custody and control of their children. So this law is unconstitutional as written. And this statement in the bill that says this is just declaratory of existing law is a falsehood. I would love for the author to talk about what law it is actually that permits and requires schools to lie to parents.
The Chino Unified School District does have a policy that is both on sexual orientation and gender identity.
Chino policy requires that it is actually under an injunction at the moment, but when it was put into place, it requires parent notification if a child asks to use a restroom of a gender other than what they're on their birth certificate, if they ask to play on a team, and also if they ask to use a pronoun or a name in their official or unofficial records. That is how the policy reads in Chino.
Because I wrote the policy. I wrote the parental notification policies. So the parental notification policy for Chino Valley does not touch on sexual orientation at all. None of them do. I wrote the majority of them. They all deal with whether a school is participating in the social transition of a child. So when a child asks the school to change their name, when a child asks the school to call them different names or accommodate them by permitting them to use different bathrooms or a different sports team, it does not cover where a teacher hears that a child is transgender. There's no notification requirement whatsoever. It's only if the school participates in the social transition, which is a psychosocial medical intervention for the child.
Appreciate that.
This is not the way to find out, because no matter how we feel as parents, the fact remains that when you forcibly out a child, it harms them. That's it. This is harmful.
So privacy is so important to understand. For a privacy right to exist, there needs to be an expectation of privacy. That's first and foremost. When a student tells everyone at school and all the teachers and all the administrators and all the students know that the child has taken on a transgender identity, then that privacy right is lost. It's gone. And the only person who doesn't know about the child's transgender status is the parent. That is not called a privacy right, and it is not permitted. So there is no privacy right when a child tells everyone, and that is true with sexual orientation too. There is a case from the appellate court that says once the student talks about their sexual orientation or private issues and they've publicly announced it to the entire school, it is no longer private. So when a child tells everyone at the school to call them by a different name, use a different pronoun, treat them differently, that privacy right is gone. And the federal courts have found that to be true.
Question as it relates. So under the Federal Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, parents have an absolute right to access any and all public records related to their child. So under FERPA, would parents be entitled to access information regarding the child's gender identity and pronouns?
Yes, under FERPA, they have access to school records.
What FERPA and the way it works in the real world, because I am a licensed attorney, and so when my daughter came out as a transgender child, I did a FERPA request to test the school to see if the school would lie to me one more time. I requested under FERPA all of my daughter's records. And I knew that they were calling her by a male name and using male pronouns. And I did not receive one of those records. And I work with hundreds of parents, and I tell them to send the same FERPA request. And they know that their child is being called by a different name, and they never get those records. I guarantee you, they never get those records because they create a secret file that is held in a administrator's office. So they keep that information secret from parents.
Was that the end?
Yeah. Yeah. Erin, thank God she was there. Again, a licensed attorney here in the state of California.
Right.
Because, I mean, the fact that there was even one point when they were like, this has never been said. And she was like, it's been said 4 times. I literally have the documents here where it was said. It goes to show, and I think many of you, if you're tuning into this podcast, already probably know this, but don't just believe the things people say because you see them sitting in some kind of government room and you think, oh, wow, like that, they must be right. Like, this is the government. And I think we've become better at a society as not just naturally trusting that, because at the end of the day, these were just regular people that got voted into office. They wasn't like, it was like, oh my goodness, this person has the highest IQ and tested the best on all the tests and all that, so we're throwing them in. Like, this is just, again, it's just someone from that area, from that district that was like, I'm gonna run, and they went and ran. And I do believe most of them up there are doing what they think is best, even though if they are not doing good things at all, it's deep down what they think is best. But yeah, don't just because you see a video clip of someone speaking and they're in a committee hearing and it looks like this intense government room, don't just automatically assume and believe that everything they're saying is correct and truthful.
Right. And I think a lot of people do that. They think, well, what do I know? I'm just going to trust the expert. Right. No, we should be really training people to be critical thinkers, right? Like, ask good questions. Like, where did you get that information? Is that correct? You know, if you say it's the law, can you show me the law? Right. I mean, those kind of things. You double, and you know, as a report, I used to be a newspaper reporter, and people would call me up with all kinds of accusations against. They wanted me to report on government officials that they said were corrupt. I said, okay, there are government officials who are corrupt, but you got to provide me proof. Like, how do you know? Where did you hear this? Do you have original source documents? So you got to do the same thing with these government officials. Like, they say something, and sadly, our attorney general has been going around telling all these school boards that it's illegal to let a parent know that their kid is changed their name and pronoun. And all these school boards like, well, the attorney general, I don't want to challenge that guy. I mean, he's got authority, right? And all this time he's been telling a lie, right? And when he's pulled into federal court and he's being sued for being responsible for this secrecy policy. Oh no, this is not the law. I was just giving some advice. You know, this is not enforceable. Even though he's been threatening school districts, you know, filing lawsuits against them. So, you know, yeah. So, folks, you just have to be vigilant with anybody who's in charge. We're all, you know, sin abounds in the heart of mankind, and when people get in power, corruption is kind of inevitable. The temptation to take your power and just say, you know, and tell your followers, just do what I say. This is what I want. Do what I say, right? Don't question me. All right. I know if you're a parent, you get annoyed when your kids question you. Well, and just do it. Well, you know, when they're young, they don't know anything. But ultimately, you don't want your kids just to be, you know, do what I say and not, even when, you know, we don't have good reasons for what we're doing. So you want to raise kids that are question askers. So anyway, yes. The battle continues, and this bill is now going to the Appropriations Committee in the Senate next week. Then it'll be going to the Assembly side again. And we assume there's going to be a committee hearing. We don't know yet, because this was a bill called a gut and amend, which means they took a bill that had already passed the Assembly as something completely different. It got to the Senate, and they stripped all the language out and put all this new language in. So it's a brand new bill. It's a little trick they do. And so it has to go back to the Assembly. So we'll see. We'll keep you in touch with what's going to happen.
Yes. And so if you're wondering, okay, who's going to testify in the next hearing, what's going on with that? Appropriations, it just goes through over the financial aspect of things. So it doesn't look like when we say, oh, the Education Committee or different things like that. But yes, so it will, if it passes the appropriations, it will be heading to the Senate floor. So visit CaliforniaFamily.org. You'll be able to see, it'll say Action Center at the top. Click that, and you'll see AB 1955. If you put in your information, or if you're already logged into our stuff, we'll provide you your state senator's name and the office number. You could literally click call off of it if you're doing it on your phone. If you're doing it on your computer, you can just type it onto your phone. We provide talking points, all that, but call your state senator, let them know you're in their district, give them the zip code if they ask for it, and tell them you are urging a no vote. We give a ton of talking points, so you can use any of those, but we will keep you guys updated with 1955. Next, AB 2442. This bill is similar to something we've seen done in the past in regards to abortion. What this bill is going to do, it's by Assemblymember Zabur, and it expedites the licensure process for applicants that intend to provide transgender surgeries, drugs, and affirmation counseling. So they're calling it gender affirming care. We know there's nothing caring about cutting off the healthy body parts of children, leading them into confusion, and anything like that. But again, this will expedite the licensure process if they say they are willing to provide those treatments and those care. So we've seen this done with abortion. It was going to expedite the licensure process if the doctor was going to say, yes, I'll provide abortions, or I'm interested in providing abortions. So now they're coming through, they're doing that with this whole transgender stuff. Something I wanted to know, I actually just saw it on Twitter, I guess now X. Chloe Cole. If you guys are familiar with Chloe Cole, she's from here in California. She's a detransitioner, which means she's a girl who fell into this trans ideology, tried to transition to a boy, and realized, one, that's not actually possible to change your sex, but two, realized that she wants to have kids one day and all of that, so she then detransitioned, which is why she's a detransitioner. And she tweeted 2 days ago, "Today marks 4 years since my breasts were taken from me. I'm only 19 years old." And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that because, again, this is now expediting license for the medical community if they're willing to commit these surgeries. And here she is at 19 saying that 4 years ago, at 15 years old, she had her healthy breasts cut off because that was, quote unquote, gender affirming care. So it's heartbreaking to see things like that, to hear that she's still struggling with side effects from that surgery 4 years later. But with that, AB 2442, it was in the Senate Business and Professions Committee this week. It passed 10-3. But Greg, you actually testified on that. So want to give us a rundown on anything for that bill before we watch your testimony?
Yeah, well, in the what they're arguing is that, you know, all these red states, there are 26 states now here in the U.S. that have banned in some form this trans care that they're providing for minors, and California has become a sanctuary place for anyone to come and get this treatment. It's not a treatment, but you know, and so that's the reason we need to have more expediting services for doctors to come over here and do it. We want to be the headquarters for everybody to get, you know, mutilated, which is a horrible thing. So my tactic was not saying, hey, Texas and Florida, you know, we should follow their example. Knowing these legislators, they think Texas and Florida are the worst of the worst states. So, but it's not just red states that are changing their mind about these treatments. It is Europe. Western Europe is now, there's a whole list of countries who are now no longer providing puberty blockers. Specifically England, it came out, they closed down their big gender clinic. They just last week banned private companies temporarily from using any puberty blockers. They've already banned the government clinics from doing this. They know that all this didn't work. And so I pointed to studies that have been done just recently, revealing that all this evidence they have on their side is really bad. It's very weak research, and there's no long-term studies saying this helps kids in the long term. In the short term, hey, the kids are happy. Woohoo! I feel better. Now I'm my authentic self. And then years down the line, they realize, you know what? I'm just faking it. And then they get more suicidal than ever before. And so I bring that up in the hearing.
All right, let's check it out.
Chair members, my name is Greg Burt, Vice President of the California Family Council, and we strongly oppose AB 2442, because it grants special privileges to medical personnel who are using treatments for gender dysphoria which other countries are rejecting for the harm they cause to minors. You should have received a copy of a study published in the National Library of Medicine showing an increased risk of suicide of those who received gender-affirming surgery. We've also sent you articles regarding the Cass Review. It's an independent review commissioned by the English government, which highlights the significant risk and adverse outcomes associated with gender-affirming treatments, such as puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Just last week, United Kingdom banned private doctors from prescribing and supplying puberty blockers for minors. This emergency order, likely to become permanent, follows the National Health Service's decision to cease prescribing these treatments outside of research settings. These actions are grounded in the findings of the Cass Review, which raise critical concerns about social transitioning of minors, emphasizing that such transitions are profound psychological interventions with potentially irreversible consequences. The Cass Review also found the evidence supporting these treatments to be disappointingly poor and highlighted the frequent co-occurrence of gender dysphoria with other acute mental health issues that must be addressed first. Finland, Sweden, Norway, France, Denmark, Scotland, and Italy have all recently reversed course and placed restrictions on medicalizing children with gender dysphoria that favor psychological treatment without automatic affirmation. With all this evidence, why then is this legislature and the committee analysis...
Okay, sir, that's 2 minutes. Going to need you to give us your final thought there and let the other lead witness speak.
Sure. Giving all this witness, why is this, the analysis in this legislature continuing to support these treatments without bringing up what's happening in other countries?
Thank you for your testimony. Next
Thanks.
lead witness in opposition.
Well, great job, Greg. Telling them the truth, whether they choose to hear it or not.
Hey, yeah, well, we did. We have interns, and I gave them a little assignment, and we went out to all the offices and made sure that they had those studies in their hands, right? So hopefully, at some point, they're going to realize this is not a conservative Christian conspiracy to attack, young people struggling with their authentic selves. No, we are trying to raise awareness that they are sterilizing and preying upon vulnerable kids, right? And trying to do it behind the parents' backs, right? And it's an awful, it's criminal, right? And please wake up. And if England can wake up, and England's no bastion of conservatism, right? If they can wake up, you would think the California could do it too. So it just takes people standing up, speaking up, not being afraid anymore, because that's what's happening. Because they lambast us as hateful because of that kind of testimony. Actually, one of the legislators, said something that afterwards that she was reading our opposition testimony and she couldn't get through it because it was so awful. So that's what we're dealing with.
Yes, and that even goes to say, make sure, call your legislators, urge them to vote a certain way, be involved. We try to make it as easy as possible for you guys to do by keeping you guys informed, providing the phone numbers, all of that. But also be talking to your child about these issues and make sure your child knows that they weren't born in the wrong body and that they were created perfectly, because they are hearing the opposite every single day if they are in school or just interacting with people of the general public. It really has become a social contagion. We sent around in our little CFC group message a video this morning, and it was a young, probably high school age girl, and she has short hair, and then just like in shorts and a t-shirt, but she's evidently a girl, and she is in front of everyone, and she goes, "This is something I've known for a while, but I wanted to share with everyone. I am a boy." And everyone just starts cheering and hugging her and crying for her and happy and all that. And so that is what your children are witnessing happen. And don't think, oh, it's not happening in my little community. It is. It's happening everywhere, especially in the state of California. So just know that like your children are witnessing. If you want to be praised and loved by the people around you, that's what you have to do, especially if your child maybe feels like they don't have that many friends or feels that they don't fit in with the people at their school or on their sports team or whatever it is. If you all of a sudden come out and say that you're the opposite sex, now you're everyone's favorite person and you're being celebrated. And so you really do need to be, again, working on things, calling your state officials, all those things, but talking to your child about this stuff. Because that video, even though the girl in it and the people in it thought they were doing something great, it was truly heartbreaking to watch them affirm a delusion, affirm a confusion, affirm a lie, an evil lie. And so do be talking to your children about this stuff. But with that, with all the crazy going on in California and this world, we have seen, there's breaking news on it today, so we'll tell you the story and update you on the breaking news. But in LA, a lifeguard sued LA County because they were making him raise not just a normal pride flag, but a progress pride flag. So that's where it has the different colors for race and all the different things. I mean, we can't even keep up with all the different flags going on. But Greg, what is happening here with this lifeguard?
Yeah, there is in LA, the fire department actually oversees all the lifeguards, right? And California has beautiful beaches. And this guy, he is a captain. His name is Jeffrey Little. And the LA County Board of Supervisors voted, I think it was last year, to require all county facilities to fly the Progress Pride flag. And as a Christian, he knew he could not be involved with promoting a flag that completely contradicts everything he believes about sexuality and gender. And so how can a Christian be involved with raising that flag, right? And so they were raising it all the lifeguard stations, right? And requiring employees to and put it up themselves. And as a supervisor himself, he was being told he have to make sure this pride flag is being flown on all your various buildings that you're over. And he goes, you know what? I cannot in good conscience do that. I am not going to be putting my hand on that flag or doing anything involved with promoting it. That would contradict what I believe to be true as a Christian. And, so he asked for a religious accommodation, which is what you can do when your job is asking you to promote something or do something that conflicts with your faith. You can ask your employer, whether private or public, that, hey, I would like to be accommodated for my religious faith. And laws have already been in place, court decisions have already been in place that allow and mandate that employers try to accommodate your religious views. And so for the first year, they accommodated him, but this year they did not. And they demanded that he raise the flag himself and make sure those he supervised raise it. And so anyway, he ended up filing a lawsuit over various things. One of the things he filed a lawsuit is that it was revealed by his employer publicly that he had asked for a religious accommodation for the flag. He received some death threats. He got a letter sent to him threatening him, actually threatened that they knew where he lived. They knew he had little cute daughters, and they threatened to rape his daughters, called him a fascist pig, all kinds of awful, terrible things, all because it's alleged that his employer, publicly put out to other folks that, this religious accommodation was asked for, and he was retaliated against. And so some of the good news is just yesterday, I saw a press release that after a federal case was filed against him, that the Los Angeles Fire Department has agreed to partially accommodate Captain Little for his religious beliefs, and not require him to raise the progress flag as part of his job for the remainder of Pride Month. So that's a great win. But what they have not done is they are still requiring him to supervise making sure other people raise the flag, right? And so he is still fighting in his court case for that. So we'll follow that going on. But we've heard from other firefighters, Christian firefighters in LA County, that want nothing to do with being involved in promoting homosexuality or transgenderism by raising the flag over their fire stations. And so this is what's happening in our culture. It's like, put up the flag or you're going to be punished. Wear the rainbow pin or you're going to be punished. This is what happened in communist countries. We've heard from dissidents that they were required to put the communist flag in their place of business, in their homes, or else get punished. Right? This fly the flag, wave the flag, or we're coming after you is a familiar tactic of the Soviet Union and Marxists. And so sadly, it's happening here in the state of California.
Yeah, and if it happens to you, do not cave. Be bold enough in your faith, strong enough in your faith, and do not cave, because it doesn't end here. If we cannot let them force us to do these things that are going against our religious values and religious beliefs. I mean, I'm sorry, but why does there need to be any flag other than the American flag on a fire station? It's so ridiculous. But again, do not cave, because look how far they've gone. It went from just let us be to now this guy getting a death threat. If you don't put this flag up, we'll rape your daughters.
Right. They're threatening to take your kids. Come to California and we'll take jurisdiction of your children who have fled, maybe even been kidnapped by, a relative or someone else, to come to California to get their gender treatment, right? I mean, that's already the law. SB 107 we fought. So folks, being silent and not resisting, you think you're avoiding conflict? No, you're making it easier for them to go farther than you ever thought was possible in this country. It's only people standing up to this and saying, no, you will not do that. No, I will not do that. You can have your belief, but you are not going to force me to give up mine, right? That goes with being forced to use preferred pronouns or saying anything that comes out of your mouth that you know to be wrong. Don't do it. Folks, don't do it.
No, I mean, there's that famous quote, and people go back and forth on who actually said it, but it's the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. And so we can't do nothing. With that, I know for Christians right now, this might be a heavy month, not because we are believing or falling into the lie of Pride Month, but because it affects your children, because it's everywhere. It's on your TVs, it's at the stores, it's just everywhere. And so with that, we at California Family Council, we actually hosted a webinar last month called A Christian Response to Pride Month. Truthfully, it's probably my favorite webinar we've done. It was just so powerful. We just had some great guest speakers on that really dove into how Christians can respond to Pride Month. And it was very clear that we still need to be loving and caring, but we have to hold true to what the Bible says. And it really walks through how to deal with that if it's in your own home with your own children. Can you go to your child's wedding if they're living in a homosexual relationship? All of those things. It's 2 hours long. It is phenomenal. And I'm not speaking on it, so totally non-biased. Like, this is so good. Go check it out. Go to californiafamily.org. You'll see webinars at the top. Click on that, and it's the most recent webinar. It's a really encouraging webinar to listen to, especially during this month. I learned so much from it, but hold true to your faith, be bold, don't do nothing, stay strong. But with that, we will see you guys all next time.
See you later.